I'm Michelle Marchant Johnson, and I am your host. And I'm really excited today to be featuring a first-time guest. His name is Brad Yates, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him in just a moment. But welcome, Brad.
Thanks, Michelle. Happy to be here.
So happy to have you here. So before we get started, I just want to share with you a little bit more about Brad. And then we're going to have a great conversation about tapping into understanding men, or at least tolerating them. We've got to have a little bit of humor here. I love that.
Absolutely. It's the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down.
Exactly. Brad Yates is known internationally for his creative and often humorous use of emotional freedom techniques, EFT. Brad is the author of the best-selling children's book, The Wizard's Wish, the co-author of the bestseller Freedom at Your Fingertips, and a featured expert in the film The Tapping Solution. He has also been a presenter at a number of events, including Jack Canfield's Breakthrough to Success. I've been to that event before, actually. I loved it.
Excellent.
Has done teleseminars with the Secret Stars, Bob Doyle and Dr. Joe Vitale, and has been heard internationally on a number of internet radio talk shows. Brad also has over 700 videos on YouTube that have been viewed over 19 million times. That's amazing.
Just went over 20 million a couple days ago.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Very excited.
Congratulations. 20 million. That's amazing. So, Brad, first of all, why did you choose this title about tapping into understanding men, or at least tolerating them? Let's start there.
It just was the title that came to mind. In terms of, what can I bring to the man panel? And, using tapping as a way of, feeling more comfortable around the opposite sex. And sometimes it's great we can understand each other, and sometimes we just need a little help just tolerating each other.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those women that are listening that may have heard of tapping, or they may have heard of EFT, but haven't really gone deep with it or haven't really experienced it, I know we're going to do a little demonstration and have an experiential opportunity here. But tell us a little bit about this practice in general for those that don't have much of a foundation.
Yeah, certainly. So tapping, which is also known as EFT, which is short for Emotional Freedom Technique, is this process of tapping with our fingertips on key points, primarily around the face and torso. And if you're new to this, don't shut down the video now. What is Michelle bringing to us? This is weird. I'm trying to find a normal guy, not one who taps on his face. No, it does look a little strange, but there's a very good reason why we do it. So for thousands of years in Chinese medicine, they've said there's a flow of energy through the body along these pathways called meridians. And when the energy is flowing naturally, we experience our natural state of health and well-being, which helps us have healthier relationships. And we think more clearly and we're more open. When this energy gets stuck, we don't feel so good. And we don't make such good choices. And so in traditional acupuncture, they would stick needles in these key points to stimulate the healthy flow of energy. And around 1980 or so, a psychologist named Roger Callahan discovered that by tapping on these points, he could stimulate that healthy flow. The first person he worked with, he helped clear a lifelong water phobia, and just in a matter of moments. And it was like, wow, that's what's going on here, and started experimenting and found different ways to help clients with all kinds of emotional issues. Now we also have modern research showing different things like cortisol levels. So when we go into fight or flight, when we feel stressed, cortisol is one of the hormones that gets released into our body, and it can have all kinds of harmful effects if that happens a lot. which in our stressful society happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So a study was done where randomized controlled study where the group that did the tapping, their cortisol levels dropped by an average of 24%, some as much as 50%. Yeah, it was so staggering that the lab threw out the first batch thinking that something went wrong because they said that's not possible. And ran it again, and in fact, that is the case. So if you think about the fact that most, if not all issues, physical and emotional, are created or at least worsened by stress, and you have a simple technique that can dramatically lower your stress, even if it looks strange, it's kind of a no-brainer to be using this as a way of dealing with that. In terms of relationship issues, there's all kinds of stress that can come up, and there's also fear that stops us. So when we feel this stress response in terms of different things like relationships, our brain is designed to protect us. Our mind is looking for ways to protect us. So if we have negative associations to relationships, then, let's say you're in a grocery store and you see someone a little ways away who, might be relationship material. Part of you thinks that. Even before you're consciously aware of them, part of you says, oh, warning, danger. Look, there's a sale on aisle 2. Let's go over here. Mm-hmm. And we never consciously even see that person. And part of this is like, whew, dodge that bullet. So there are so many ways that we are brilliantly protecting ourselves from what we think of as a threatening situation. And the tapping is a great way of clearing out the stress and the fear so we can look at it and say, is it really threatening? If I have this belief that relationships are bad, and every time I see somebody who is a potential partner, and I have this stress response and I go running, it's not that, it's that the idea of relationships are bad is too broad a fear. And I want to go through and be tapping, going, okay, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? Oh, well, I had that one relationship where the guy broke my heart. He was a jerk. I'm better off without him. It doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. And we start to get that awareness and go, oh yeah, okay, that person actually did me a favor. Mm-hmm. Because sooner or later, I would have recognized that was the wrong person, and it would have been much longer later. So we could start to get more clarity. So that's why we do this rather strange process.
So it can be a way to challenge false or fearful beliefs. It can be a way to lower cortisol. It can be a way to, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Challenge belief that might be false or based in false beliefs or from something from our past.
Yeah.
A way to clear emotional pain or emotional upsets. So a lot of this applies, of course, to relationships, because many of the women here have had experiences in one or more relationships that have maybe left some residual hurt or pain. And so they may equate men or relationships as something to be afraid of or something that is hurtful. There may be some beliefs along those lines for some of the women here. So you're saying this is a technique, this is a tool to be able to help clear some of that. Because on a deep level, even though they might have those beliefs, most of these women still would like to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
So therein lies the conundrum, if you will.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the analogies I like to use is, let's say as a child, you go into the kitchen and the stove is on, mm-hmm. and you touch the hot burner, and that would be very painful.
Yes.
You might decide that going next to the stove is dangerous.
Right.
You might even decide that going into the kitchen is dangerous. I should never go into the kitchen because when I go into the kitchen, I get burned. Now, it's a total misunderstanding. But if we get that stuck in our mind, then we are going to go through life avoiding going to the kitchen. that's going to make life challenging.
Yes.
So it's the same with relationships. We get into a relationship with someone who hurts us, and we decide, oh, relationships are bad. Not that this one particular person was bad, or that this particular person at this particular time was bad, but that relationships are general. And it's totally understandable. Knowing how much it hurts to touch a hot burner, we rather than beating ourselves up, because too often we beat ourselves up for the ways we limit ourselves in life. Oh, I'm such a loser for not going out on more dates. I'm such a loser for not doing this. No, you're not a loser for not going into the kitchen if you truly believe it's going to burn your hand. We want to love and appreciate and be compassionate with that part of ourselves that is trying to take care of ourselves. And we want to recognize where we might be a little off base with with the fear that we have there, and recognize, oh, you know what? Not all guys are monsters. And some of the guys who have been monsters in the past, they're not necessarily monsters. They were going through a very difficult time or whatever was going on for them. And there are ways that we can take care of ourselves in relationships. And there are ways that we can look for warning signs and recognize, oh, I've seen that behavior before. We need to have a long talk or not ever talk again. And know that happy relationships do happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So then another obstacle that I think that shows up for women, in addition to kind of fears about men and relationships and some of those emotions, are fears about themselves or their own unlovability or unworthiness to be loved. I'm too much this, I'm not enough that, I'm too old, I'm too fat, or I intimidate men because I'm too successful, or I'm not enough this or that. And so this appears to be a technique where we could work with some of those beliefs as well. Yes?
Yeah. So if you have any of those beliefs, knock it off. You are worthy. You are worthy of love, inherently worthy and deserving of love, regardless of any of the things you might list, unless you're like a serial killer. That might be, that for me would be a nonstop, but some guys are into weird things. So, but yeah, absolutely. Clearing those beliefs. In the video I was just doing, we were talking about the fear of not being good enough. It's total misunderstandings. You are inherently worthy and deserving, plenty good enough, regardless of those limitations that you think. There are women of all shapes and sizes and ages who are in happy relationships, who have men who absolutely adore them. There are very powerful and successful women. I was talking to some of them over the weekend at this big fundraiser, and who are very happily in relationships, and have men who adore them and admire their strengths, and their strengths support each other. So on a planet with over 7 billion people, there is someone there who is going to think you're awesome.
Yeah.
At least one, probably a lot, So.
Yeah. So do you feel like this would be a good time, Brad, to actually do the experience of doing some tapping around one of these topics?
Michelle, for me, doing what I do, every time is a good time.
Okay, great.
Always a good time to tap.
Great.
So absolutely. So what I would like everyone to do is, well, first let me quickly show you the very simple version of EFT, so that you just get the basics of it. So what we would do is we would first take whatever the issue might be. So let's say I'm stressed out right now, and I would say, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, how stressed am I? Well, maybe about a 7. And I might notice what physical sensations I might have, like, is my heart pounding? Is my stomach upset? So we would take 2 fingers and tap on what we call the karate chop point on the opposite hand. And it's just a gentle tapping motion. And we would say, and actually you can follow along. So Michelle, if you'll just be my echo voice.
Yep.
Even though I feel this stress,
even though I feel this stress,
I choose to love and accept myself.
I choose to love and accept myself.
And then we would say that 3 times. And so we're just stating a level of self-acceptance, even though we have this issue. Then we'd tap the eyebrow point. And generally we'll tap these points, each point about 5 to 10 times, depending on what I'm saying as we go through the demonstration. I'll say some phrases a little bit longer, so it'll take more than 5 to 10 taps. So right here at the beginning of your eyebrow, all this stress.
All this stress.
At the corner of the eye, all this stress.
All this stress.
Right under the middle of the eye, all this stress.
All this stress.
Under the nose, all this stress.
All this stress.
Right under the mouth, just above the chin, all this stress.
All this stress.
And right here where your collarbones just about meet, go ahead and make a fist and tap right where the collarbones come together. All this stress.
All this stress.
Right about 4 inches below the armpit. It's right about bra strap level. All this stress.
All this stress.
And then finally, using all your fingers, tap around a little circle around the crown of your head. All this stress.
All this stress.
And then take a deep breath. And then generally we find that the stress comes down when we check in again. For some, it'll go from, if we started at a 7, it might go to a 0 like that. Sometimes it's a little bit more slow. It maybe go from a 7 to a 6.75, do another round, 6.5. We may have to work it down. And it's also generally like peeling the layers of the onion, such that we start to have more insights into why we might be stressed. And I just feel really stressed. I don't know what it is, but now I know. It's that meeting that I have coming up. And we get clarity about why we're stressed. And, I'm really stressed about that meeting because I'm afraid that Bob isn't going to have his section of the presentation ready. I could just go talk to Bob about that rather than just stressing. But I'm afraid of talking to Bob. Okay, clear that. Why am I afraid of talking to Bob? And we clear all that until it's like, I can get this handled and we don't have to feel all that stress anymore. So that's the very basic version. So let's do this. Everyone go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Let it go. Just allowing yourself to be present. Following your breath inside. And say, worthy and deserving of love.
I am worthy and deserving of love.
And just notice what goes on in there. Notice what thoughts and beliefs and memories might come up. Notice what emotions you might feel. On a scale of 0 to 10, how true does that feel? And if it doesn't feel like a 10, if it's lower than that, don't beat yourself up for it being low. Just allow yourself to recognize, this is the issue. I've been misguided about how lovable I am. Because it's not true. You are absolutely worthy and deserving of love, and that's what we're going to aim to help you be more clear on. One little caveat with tapping is we are dealing with emotional stuff. So if you have like heavy emotions around this, you may want to wait to do this until you have someone there for emotional support, or you may want to work with someone one-on-one. For the most part, it's a very gentle, very safe. It's a very safe technique, and it's not the tapping that creates upset. It's just that if any time that we go thinking heavily about a situation that might have some emotional disturbance for us, it can be upsetting. Ideally, as we tap through, it becomes less distressing. But because I don't know who's watching this, and I don't know if someone is just getting off of a very traumatic breakup, I'm going to suggest that you might want to have someone there for emotional support. So if you choose to tap, you need to take full responsibility for your own well-being. So that being said, if you're willing, tap along with me. Even though I sometimes doubt how lovable I am.
Even though I sometimes doubt how lovable I am.
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
Even though I sometimes doubt how lovable I am.
Even though I sometimes doubt how lovable I am.
I choose to love and honor myself anyway.
I choose to love and honor myself anyway.
Even though I sometimes doubt how lovable I am.
Even though I sometimes doubt how lovable I am.
And I tell myself all kinds of reasons.
And I tell myself all kinds of reasons.
Why I couldn't or shouldn't be loved.
Why I couldn't or shouldn't be loved.
Why I should just give up.
Why I should just give up.
I'm lucky if some people just like me.
I'm lucky if some people just like me.
And even though I sometimes doubt that I'm worthy of love.
Even though I sometimes doubt that I'm worthy of love.
I choose to deeply and completely.
I choose to deeply and completely.
Love, honor, and accept myself.
Love, honor, and accept myself.
And maybe anyone else.
And maybe anyone else.
Who may have contributed to these doubts.
Who may have contributed to these doubts.
They just didn't know any better.
They just didn't know any better.
All these doubts about how lovable I am.
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 All these fears.
All these fears.
That I'm not really that lovable.
That I'm not really that lovable.
All these reasons.
All these reasons.
Why I couldn't or shouldn't be loved.
Why I couldn't or shouldn't be loved.
All these doubts.
All these doubts.
That I'm worthy and deserving of being loved.
That I'm worthy and deserving of being loved.
And I choose to tap all these doubts out.
And I choose to tap all these doubts out.
Because they're misunderstandings.
Because they're misunderstandings.
The truth is.
The truth is.
I am worthy and deserving of love.
I am worthy and deserving of love.
And I know this.
And I know this.
Because if I didn't believe it.
Because if I didn't believe it.
I wouldn't be sitting here tapping right now.
I wouldn't be sitting here tapping right now.
Because this is an act of self-love.
Because this is an act of self-love.
And why would I do an act of self-love?
And why would I do an act of self-love?
If I didn't know that I was worthy and deserving of love.
If I didn't know that I was worthy and deserving of love.
But I don't know it as fully as I could.
But I don't know it as fully as I could.
And when I have doubts about being lovable.
And when I have doubts about being lovable.
Other people might pick up on that.
Other people might pick up on that.
So they might not show me the love that I deserve.
So they might not show me the love that I deserve.
And I choose to clear these doubts.
And I choose to clear these doubts.
Clearing any doubts about being lovable.
Clearing any doubts about being lovable.
Clearing them at a cellular level.
Clearing them at a cellular level.
Clearing these doubts all the way back through my past.
Clearing these doubts all the way back through my past.
Back through all the times in my life.
Back through all the times in my life.
Where I somehow got the message.
Where I somehow got the message.
That I wasn't worthy of being loved.
That I wasn't worthy of being loved.
Maybe I decided it on my own.
Maybe I decided it on my own.
Or I heard it from some other person.
Or I heard it from some other person.
They told me I wasn't good enough.
That he told me I wasn't good enough.
Maybe because of the way I looked.
Maybe because of the way I looked.
Maybe because of something else about me.
Maybe because of something else about me.
And was that person a Nobel Prize winner?
Was that person a Nobel Prize winner?
Why did I believe them?
Why did I believe them?
It was opinion, not fact.
It was opinion, not fact.
And they may have been an authority figure in my life.
And they may have been an authority figure in my life.
And I felt I needed to believe them.
And I felt I needed to believe them.
But they weren't right about everything.
But they weren't right about everything.
And they were certainly wrong about this.
And they were certainly wrong about this.
No matter how many times I might have been told I'm not good enough.
No matter how many times I may have been told I'm not good enough.
it's still a lie.
It's still a lie.
Just like the earth being flat.
Just like the earth being flat.
For years, they said it was flat.
For years, they said it was flat.
You didn't dare say it was round.
You didn't dare say it was round.
They insisted it was flat.
They insisted it was flat.
But they were always wrong.
But they were always wrong.
No matter how many times they insisted it.
No matter how many times they insisted it.
The earth has been round since the beginning.
The earth has been round since the beginning.
No matter how many times someone has said, I'm not good enough.
No matter how many times someone has said, I'm not good enough.
That has been false.
That has been false.
The earth has always been round.
The earth has always been round.
I have always been good enough.
I have always been good enough.
I have always been worthy and deserving of love.
I have always been worthy and deserving of love.
I can think of a newborn baby.
I can think of a newborn baby.
And recognize how lovable that baby is.
And recognize how lovable that baby is.
And all it does is eat, sleep, and poop.
And all it does is eat, sleep, and poop.
At what point is that no longer enough to be lovable?
At what point is that no longer enough to be lovable?
I'm still doing those things.
I'm still doing those things.
I'm still worthy and deserving of love.
I'm still worthy and deserving of love.
And the rest is just excuses.
And the rest is just excuses.
Sometimes I use those excuses to keep me safe.
Sometimes I use those excuses to keep me safe.
Because part of me says, if I acknowledge that I'm lovable,
if I acknowledge that I'm lovable,
I might really put myself back out on the market.
I might really put myself back out on the market.
And that could lead to all kinds of trouble.
And that could lead to all kinds of trouble.
If believing that I'm not worthy of love,
if believing that I'm not worthy of love
keeps me safely in my comfort zone,
keeps me safely in my comfort zone,
I'm more willing to believe it.
I'm more willing to believe it.
But it's still a lie.
But it's still a lie.
I don't need that to protect me.
I don't need that to protect me.
So I'm letting go of those doubts.
So I'm letting go of those doubts.
I am worthy and deserving of love.
I am worthy and deserving of love.
The fact is, I'm pretty darn awesome.
The fact is, I'm pretty darn awesome.
And anybody would be lucky to be with me.
And anybody would be lucky to be with me.
I am a gift to the world.
I am a gift to the world.
And I'm setting myself free to share myself with the world.
And I'm setting myself free to share myself with the world.
I choose to experience a lot more love.
I choose to experience a lot more love.
In body, mind, and spirit.
In body, mind, and spirit.
And take a deep breath. And go ahead and close your eyes again. And take a deep breath. And say, I'm worthy and deserving of love.
I'm worthy and deserving of love.
And hopefully that number has gone up on a scale of 0 to 10. Awesome if it's at a 10. If not, then maybe during the tapping round, you may have had recollections of events in your life where it's like, oh, where my dad said this, or some guy I was going out with said this. It's like, okay, these were not Nobel Prize winners. And even Nobel Prize winners say stupid things sometimes. So it's like recognizing you are inherently worthy and deserving. I mean, I don't, whatever your spiritual or religious beliefs might be, whatever creator you might believe in felt that you were good enough to be here. Mm-hmm. So who are you going to believe? The creator or some numbskull who probably wasn't living at the top of their game? Right.
Yeah, so thank you so much for providing us with this experiential opportunity, Brad. And a couple of questions that came up. If you're newer to this kind of experience, one possibility would be to get videos from you or get support from someone like you. individually. Is this something we can do for ourselves? Like, how do we know what words we would say as we're going through these tapping motions? Or do we really kind of need a guide, like guided meditations are different than self-meditation? Give us a little bit more on that.
Yeah, it's not a question of need, but that's where people get stuck. And that's why I showed you the very simple version ahead of time, where it's, just say stress, just say the same word, because if I just launch into what I just did, people say, well, okay, now I know where to tap, but I have no idea, how would I come up with those words? And I've been doing this for over 18 years. So that's why I am more open to just allowing the words to flow through. Don't let that stop you. You can just be tapping silently. If you're feeling emotional discomfort, if you're feeling stress, you can just be tapping without saying anything. You can tap while saying prayers, while saying affirmations. See, affirmations are great, but what happens so often with affirmations is that we're saying something we don't believe. So if I don't believe I'm lovable and I go, I'm lovable, that's 10% of my mind saying I'm lovable and 90% going, who are you kidding?
Right.
But while we're tapping, we're clearing out that part that says, who are you kidding? Who are you kidding? Who are you? Oh, no, wait a minute. Actually, why wouldn't I be? As a matter of fact, come to think of it, I actually am pretty lovable. So we're able to allow that affirmation to sink in at every level. So you can do it that way. This is why I have so many videos on YouTube. I said I have over 750 videos on there. So you can go onto YouTube and search all kinds of different subjects, love, health, money, and I have a bunch of videos on those. So to begin with, if you don't want to be coming up with the words, you can just follow along. And then also in the gift that we'll be sharing is another way of following along, so that to begin with, you can just go through the process and just listen to the words that I'm saying. And even if the words don't resonate, and that may have been the case during this example, there may have been certain things I said that for different folks thought that I go, yeah, and that wasn't my experience. But still, while you're tapping, you're still clearing out stress, you're still clearing out different things, and your mind will make associations such that it'll say, yeah, that's not the wording that fits, but here's something that is. Okay, I'll clear that out. So you can get benefit tapping along with things, even if the wording doesn't sound right.
So Brad, something you and I talked about before we actually started the interview has caught my attention that I want to ask you about before we wrap up. And that is, you said you talk a lot about Michelangelo, and I see the pictures of the David there behind you. And I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that. That's just a curiosity question.
I would love to, Michelle. It's my favorite thing to talk about. That's why you can't even see all the Davids I have, but I have one on my desk. Just my favorite piece of art. It's just such a masterpiece.
It's amazing.
And here's the thing. We are all masterpieces. So among the many brilliant things that Michelangelo said, he said that the statue was already there, perfect inside the marble. All I have to do is chip away what doesn't belong to reveal the magnificence inside. And to me, that is a perfect metaphor for what we're doing with tapping, because our most successful, our happiest, our healthiest, our most lovable self is already inside. It's trapped under marble. Guilt, shame, doubt, fear, low self-esteem is all this marble that we tend to carry because it protects us. We feel safer inside this wall of marble, but it's not who we really are. And so we're just chipping away to clear away those blocks of marble to reveal the magnificence that's inside.
Yeah, I have been blessed to see that statue a number of times, and I've always been so intrigued with that account of what Michelangelo shared, that he could see this amazing masterpiece in the midst of that block of marble. And it's just a really beautiful way to think about what is possible for all of us. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for your generosity in providing us with this experience and allowing us to tap into your wisdom.
Well, you know, and it's always my hope that that I show up in a way such that that some folks might go, "Hey, you know, he's a guy and he's not such a jerk."
Yes, and that is definitely one of the purposes of this series, is to renew the women's belief in the goodness of so many men out there, because I do believe that that's so important, and that if you really do want a relationship, that you can clear some of those false or limiting beliefs about men, particularly if your experience is just because of one or a few men that didn't.
And in the meantime, I keep making videos and I'm trying to get guys to clear whatever causes them to be jerks.
Good job.
Trying to build a better guy.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we appreciate your efforts on that front as well, Brad.
So does my wife.
Yeah.
I'm much less of a jerk than I was when I first started, before I started tapping.
Well, thank you so much for your generous sharing and for a few opportunities to have a good laugh today as well. Thank you again, Brad.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye for now.